Well, Marco, you are the Executive Director of the VPH Institute, and this is a conference, the third conference, I think, of the VPH Institute. Very exciting conference. So congratulations to you and all the team for putting together some extraordinary science. Now, as Director of the VPH, are you happy with the way it's going?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think that this event confirmed that there is now a cultural space that needs to be covered by a dedicated event where the scientists and the engineers that form this strange thing that we call the vertiphysiological human can meet, exchange ideas, show prototypes. So absolutely, I think it's a success, and it just have to become bigger. I can only imagine growing in the next few years.
Well, it's already quite big, isn't it? I don't know, is the whole total number about 150?
I think the official number of delegates is 175,
right,
which is absolutely within the expectation of the VPH Institute. So we're very happy with the attendance.
Yes, and you've got a huge range of, particularly Europe, which is the base of the VPH Institute, but it's not only Europe, is
Absolutely not. I mean, as you noticed, there are almost every single large project in the territory is represented.
Yes.
From US, from Japan, from China, from Korea. So
yes,
I think we are covering all the international links are represented. So we're very happy in this regard. Yeah?
Do you think it's correct to say that in a sense Europe has generated a very big influence in this area, and partly through the VPH development? Is that a fair summary?
I think so. I think so, because we need to be fair. The European Commission decided to invest massively in this area in a time where a lot of other funding agencies were still thinking whether this was worth the idea. So they've been courageous.
Yes.
That gave us a head start. I mean, it's unquestionable that in Europe we're doing things now, we've been doing things for a few years now, that some of our colleagues abroad are just starting to think about it. So yes, we do have, but you know, this is a very competitive game, so we need to hold that.
So we shouldn't, as Europeans, rest on our laurels by any means.
No, and this is a typical European behavior, so I confess I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah.
I would like to see a broader agreement in the policy maker, etc., that this is truly a grand challenge. And so either we stand on it with body and soul, or it will be somebody else who will get first to the end point.
Well, Marco Viceconti, thank you very much for talking to us, and we're going to talk a little bit later in this interview with some of your colleagues involved in the organisation of this particular meeting, but as Director of the VPH Institute, the first Director of the VPH Institute, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dennis.
So, we've already spoken with the Director of the VPH Institute, Marco Viceconti, and here we have Stig Omholt, the local organiser of the VPH 2014, Adriano Henney and Peter Hunter, who have both been, I believe, deeply implicated in creating the scientific programme with Stig. So maybe we start with you, Stig. Why Trondheim? Why this beautiful conference centre? And was it thrust on you, or did you offer?
No, I offered it, yes. And because it was also based on the fact that I moved to Trondheim 2 years ago and taking on the directorship of what they call NTE Biotechnology Program, so the Conference of Life Sciences, Mathematical Science and Engineering. And of course, because I've been engaged in the VPH community for some years now, this is one of the things I really would like to see implemented in Trondheim. this way of thinking within the biomedical sector. And as you know, Trondheim has a big university hospital.
Yes.
It is the technology capital of Norway, so there's a tremendous talent in terms of modeling in this town. So if I should be able to do something on the Norwegian scene, I mean Trondheim is the most proper place in Norway to launch such an initiative, and then it would be most fitting to then have a VPH conference in this town in order to engage also the academic community in Trondheim and also towards this case.
And that's been shown by the sheer enthusiasm of this meeting. It's been a superb meeting. But you yourself play a big international role, in not just the VPH, but in relation to biology generally on genotype-phenotype relations.
Yeah, but I see this as a whole in a way, because as many speakers have stressed during the conference, I mean, have to be able to link all this case also the genome dynamic.
Right.
And I think the VPH thinking is so instrumental actually for being able to get understanding to all the genetic data that we're having, I think otherwise. And as you also pointed so well out in your keynote yesterday, without this way of mathematizing to get this constructed understanding, we will be lost.
Yes. Well, you set a huge standard for, is it Amsterdam to follow in 2 years' time?
Thank you.
More about that in a moment. Now, Adriano, you've been one of the big plotters, and I think it's not unfair to say that outreach to industry, to funding agencies, to the world of journalism and so on, is close to your interest in all of this. Do you see this as achieving what was intended?
Well, I think it's getting there. I think the truth of the matter is that every opportunity we have to come together as a community under the VPH umbrella, VPHI umbrella now, and to bring together the traditional, well, we think of it as traditional systems biology and more physics-driven approaches, I think is helping to round the message home. The difficulty that we have, I think, is in getting that message out clearly, succinctly, and in terms that are digestible by those who are embedded in what we're trying to do. And I think that's something that I feel very strongly is something that I can help to do with the scientists that are involved in the VPH Institute, and also in the Virtual Liver Network, which is clearly the systems biology component that we bring to the table in the VPH Institute. So, yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity. It's something that we've got to get right.
And do you think we can put a message out? I mean, we've recorded the plenary lectures, and I have to say myself that, except mine, I can't quote on that, can't say anything about that, but I've been actually astounded by what I've heard.
But you see, that's every time we get together and we have these lectures, every time I hear you speak, every time I hear Peter speak, to me, and I can't compete on the science, but I mean, to me it's inexplicable that the message is not taken up with enthusiasm, understood and appreciated, and that we haven't actually gathered much more momentum. And that's a big question mark. I don't know why we haven't achieved that, but it's something that absolutely we have to do.
Well, we have this time to try to coordinate in getting the message out. We've got a great set of lectures, very different actually, the 4 lectures, but addressed to a wider audience. I think we might begin to get there. So let's see how this runs. And thanks a lot, Adriano, for all your support. Good luck with the virtual liver.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Now, Peter, you are in a sense a sort of father of the fathers of all of this, because the IUPS Physio project is in a sense a precursor of all of this, isn't it? And one can sort of see it as being a series of Russian dolls that sort of pop out of each other. I don't know what metaphor you would prefer, but as somebody who was so much a leader of the IUPS Physio project, how do you feel about the way in which VPH is taking that mission on?
I think every time we meet, every 2 years that we meet, we see quite substantial progress in terms of the aims of the VPH Physio initiative. I mean, I think we see people appreciating the need to work collaboratively to do these large-scale grand challenges that we're addressing. I think we're getting stronger and stronger linkages between biomedical science, the bioengineering, the clinical modelling community, and the clinical communities. We're seeing much more integration of mechanistic modelling across organs, different types of metabolism linked to signalling, linked to mechanics, etc. So there's far more integration going on now between these communities than there has been in the past. Yes. We're seeing much more commitment to shared models and data and software development. And we're seeing much more linkage to infrastructures that operate in the healthcare environments, so medical informatics, the sort of VPH share type environments that can bring modelling into the clinic. So I think we're on a good trajectory. I mean, I think it's still early days in terms of impact of all of this on healthcare, but I think there's no question it is going to underpin healthcare in the future.
Well, I'd like just to take up that point, and perhaps open it to the others too, on impact on healthcare. I mean, it happens to be my view, certainly, that if one looks back over the last few decades at what the systems approach, and I use that term deliberately instead of saying systems biology, which you all know has various definitions, or physio or VPH, but it's all the systems approach to biology and to medicine. I think that if we did a tot-up of the actual impact on medicine and practice that has come from the systems approach, I think we'd find that we come out very well indeed. And certainly in terms of pointing to particular treatments and medications that have already come through to the clinic. So my suspicion, but I'd like to know Stig and Adriano's view on this too, is that we don't need to hang our heads down and say we're at too early days to say. I think we've already got a reasonable track record, and we should be saying so. Is that reasonable?
Yes, of course, it depends on where you look at this from, but in terms of achievements so far, and so I'm pretty confident that we are moving in the right direction. And then you can, I mean, just an example from Trondheim here, that in the 70s, when they actually did mathematical modeling of the heart, and they realized they needed data to validate the model, they developed into some technology for measurement, which is a worldwide clinical tool today.
And already there for a spin-off.
It was actually driven by mathematical thinking, and obviously it lies on the known, but still, I mean, if you think of that as an example of all the types of technologies we now are in the process of developing. So I think the systemic thinking has been influential for very much of the technology in the Sept, and this will accelerate.
Yes, and certainly speaking for myself, we can already point to compounds that have gone through FDA and European regulatory approval. So, Adriano, what do you think?
I completely agree with that. I mean, certainly Organising is one example. I think recently Merrimack had a success in phase 3 using systems biology approaches all the way through, which was the recent one. So I think that's true. I think the other problem that we have is how you define impact.
Of course.
And there are lots of examples, I think, where modelling and simulation as a tool has been a significant aid to decision making. Now, how you classify that with impact is a problem. And if you top those things up, then I think you're absolutely right. There's no doubt about it, modelling simulation now is being used increasingly to extend the traditional PK/PD approaches in industry to now take physiologically based approaches, which is much more systematic based approach. So it's beginning to extend that area. I think we do have problems with pigeonholing. It starts with systems biology. I've tried very hard now not to use the phrase because I think it raises antibodies. What I tend to prefer to do is to talk about modelling and simulation as a toolbox, and for me actually what we're talking about, rightly or wrongly in my view, is physiology using 21st century approaches that didn't exist at the turn of the 20th century. And I think that if we start thinking in those terms, then hopefully it won't be quite so inflammatory in some areas, and we'll help us to understand exactly what we're doing.
Yes, and moving just outside the range of immediate clinical application, your colleagues, Peter, described an extraordinary application, which is Hollywood, roughly speaking. I mean, let me, just for those who may not know what we're talking about, you can have a talking face of a baby talking into a computer, and you're talking into the computer, and the baby responds, and all of that is already used in films. I'm correct, aren't I?
The baby isn't being used in films, but...
No, I realise that, yes. Yes, but the tool that came from that. But I think there's also a very important thing that I drew out of that particular presentation, which is this, that actually the insights come from partly copying nature. It's the fact that the face is, as it were,
a mirror of the brain.
Exactly, and also a structure that is determined by the structure of the skull, about which it all hangs, as it were. But all of this tells us that the systems level insights are absolutely essential in order to interpret all the lower level data. And that might be a key point in which to end this interview, and to say we look forward to Amsterdam. And my goodness, if you set them a challenge, Stig, what you managed to arrange here in Trondheim. So thank you all very much, and to the absent Marco, thank you to him, because he'll appear in this video.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.